That's Nick.
And that's Joseph, and today we're here to talk about Straight Up, a new film that's being released by Strand Releasing on March 6th, 2020. It's the directorial debut of James Sweeney, who directed, wrote, and stars. It premiered at Frameline in 2019 and also played at Outfest last summer.
This is a story about a young man who is dealing with issues of sexuality, gender identity, and through the advice of his therapist decides to explore his sexuality more. So we are introduced to him as like an obvious gay man, but he decides he needs to explore his heterosexuality. So it does star James Sweeney as Rory.
No, he's Todd.
Oh, he's Todd? Rory is the lady.
Rory is the lady.
Oh, damn. So James Sweeney plays Todd.
And he has a meet cute with Rory, played by Katie Findlay, who is an aspiring actress in Los Angeles.
Yes. So this film is interesting because I think what could have been a pretty lovely, touching, non-traditional love story is a little more like a quirky, overly long episode of Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, right before it reveals its influences. I'm like, oh my god, this sounds just like the dialogue pattern of Gilmore Girls, which clearly Mr. Sweeney is a fan of.
I do like this film. I think it's a very impressive directorial debut.
Yeah,
I think it's very clear he's a smart individual who has a good sense of humor. But there's just so much damn talking. It's unrelenting.
It feels like it gets stuck on its highs and doesn't give us enough time to ruminate on its lows. Because there's a lot going on behind the scenes of these characters and their motivations, the two leads. And it just is a pity that we can't kind of have some quiet moments in there. Especially as it involves Rory, who... Well,
let's explain their story. So Todd meets Rory at a library.
Yeah.
And they have an instant connection because they're both kind of like
They're overly
persnickety,
overly loquacious individuals. Yeah.
Intellectuals indeed. So they connect.
And then develop a relationship that is not sexual.
Right. So this is what I think is so interesting, and what could have been such a great love story is, it kind of reminds me of the TV show I binge watched called Love is Blind.
I was actually going to bring up Love is Blind because what
happens when people connect in such an emotional way and are not physical. And in this case, initially it seems beautiful because as a spectator to this story, it's like, girl, this boy is gay and there's no way he's going to have a relationship with this woman. But to see it unfold on screen, it's believable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because feelings. What's the RuPaul song?
Feelings aren't really real. Feelings.
What I feel is real, but feelings aren't real.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So it starts off really nicely, but there are just so many moments. So I think the moments you were talking about, the lows that are not allowed to breathe and fully develop are, she's aware that he's different, and she also questions his sexuality, but he assures her that he's into her. And then the first moment where she sees that he might be attracted to another man, it's obvious she's bothered or shaken. And then immediately we cut to the next scene where we kind of don't get a sense of how that may have affected her. It happens again, and once again, it's kind of brushed over very quickly.
Well, also because they do talk about serious things, but it's in that same pattern of dialogue that also makes it difficult to take seriously as well.
Yes. But what do I like about this film? I think James Sweeney, he's a very watchable actor.
Yeah.
He kind of gave me like Napoleon Dynamite vibes.
Yeah.
But I think he's like a handsome man, and he's quirky, and he looks great on screen. And I think the dialogue, particularly between the two leads, was grating, but far less grating from him.
Sure.
Because Rory's the actor who played Rory was very acty to me, like trying really hard. But also, I was very impressed, like to memorize all those damn words. It's impressive, but it's almost like witnessing, like, I mean, it's like I feel like I was watching people act.
Yeah. It
took me out.
It just, and I think that's why some of the comedy doesn't always land, because it feels a bit overly rehearsed.
So James Sweeney, I think, is very talented, very watchable. I think he's a talented writer. He has a great sense of humor. He obviously loves cinema.
The Cat on a Hot Tin Roof references. And,
Yeah.
who the hell's talking about John Woodward and Paul Newman's love life? But yeah.
The humor, there are many like I chuckled a lot.
Yeah.
It's just that there's no room for it to it just needed to slow down like half a beat and maybe extract like 30 to 40% of the dialogue. And I think this would have been a very touching, very humorous film. But I just felt like I was being sort of assaulted. No, that's a strong word. Not assaulted, but it's just a lot. It's just nonstop for the full running time.
Yeah, it is.
But again, going back to the positives, what did you like? I think the film looks great. There are a lot of interesting like edits that you didn't seem to like. I thought they were cool.
It just becomes overly repetitive, and it doesn't give me anything new. And
Sure.
So,
but for what I assume was a low budget, I think it looks.
The two leads, I always appreciate seeing Tracie Thoms, who plays the
Tracie
therapist.
Thoms plays Todd's therapist, and I thought she was great. But she's probably the only one who is deliberately like slow, like she's slowed down.
Yes, yeah.
Like her dialogue, her word choices are very economical, which makes sense as a therapist. But in such stark contrast to the lead's dialogue, it really made me feel like, I wish they would just not talk so much. Because I did like a lot of the shots. I think it's a beautiful film. And much of the humor works.
Much of it works. Even deliberating the cynicism of the Los Angeles film industry as well. I think that was never cruel.
No, I think the writing was effective in describing sort of that life in this city.
It's just the moment the film, and maybe we can pivot now to what things we didn't like. But it just wanted. I just had so many thoughts about what I wanted it to be that it's not. Like I kept thinking that this seems like something that would have been a great art house film starring Liza Minnelli in the 70s.
Sure.
As the focus, falling in love with this gay man, and then the meta-analysis from there. But
had the female lead been a little more dynamic, because she feels very flat to me.
She is, and I feel like I've met people that act just like her. And there's one scene, and this is where I felt like it needed to like slow down and kind of get under her skin more than it does, is when that acting coach stops her and says like, is this working for you, this thing you're doing? And that's such a great moment, but then nothing is ever done with it, because that's where we realize, she's not doing anything different to me in that scene than in the rest of the movie. This Findlay in this performance, so I'm like, that's her persona all the time. Also,
a complaint I have often is characters that are written to be sort of like these persnickety, grating, sometimes obnoxious, difficult to deal with people. In reality, those people would be difficult to be around and to witness. And on film, I feel the same way. Like it just becomes grating, and I really wasn't rooting for either Todd or Rory. No,
I don't. They're romantic. And again, going back to like 70s American cinema and odd couple relationships, this could have been an energy that's akin to like Harold and Maude.
Yes.
But it doesn't. And also a great conversation piece. And also because Love Is Blind is blowing up everything everywhere, and talking about men that we think are gay that have other things they want to explore, and how our culture does not allow for that. Like there's no cultural support for either of them here, which kind of ruins their relationship.
Sure. Well, I did like this film. I would give it 2.5 out of 5 stars. What would you give it?
Well, you also had a problem with the parents.
Well, say what you would give it, and then I'll go back.
2.5 out of 5 is fair.
Yeah. The parents of Todd,
Randall Park and Betsy Brandt, and I like Randall Park.
they really bothered me because they were also like just so talkative, and then the dad makes like some racist comments about Mexicans that really took me out. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, but
because like obviously the parents are intelligent, the son's intelligent. They seem to be empathetic people. They pay for his therapy. So for him to make like these racist comments, it just really took me out. I thought that was a poor choice.
The editing got obnoxious to me too because it's a lot of reverse shots and panning back and forth between this like frenetic staccato dialogue.
So to spoil the film, which we didn't do yet, they end up breaking up. Rory moves to Seattle from LA, and Todd follows her there at a point and attempts to propose to her. And that scene is, I don't think you liked it as much as I did. I thought it was cute, but it goes on too long because there's a moment where he repeats a line that they had used when they first met. And after a few times, it felt sweet, and then it just went on too long, kind of like the dialogue in this movie. So it ended kind of on a sour note. And then the last scene of the film is them back together as what I presume is friends, but then there's a third person with them, an attractive man.
And it's kind of...
It's ambiguous who
he belongs to.
Romantically connected to.
During that proposal scene in Seattle, I do like It Takes a Muscle to Fall in Love, which is the song. But that song is... I associate with so many creepy things like The Serial Killer and Simon Killer with Brady Corbet. There was a film with Anthony Perkins called Pretty Poison, and there was a retrospective screening of that, and that's what they played on it. So that I don't know. That was a curious choice.
There are some curious choices that I think I would applaud this film overall.
Yeah,
and I would definitely watch the next thing James Sweeney.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I also like the man who played Ryder, whose name I can't recall now.
Oh, James Scully.
Yeah, I liked him.
He didn't have much to do, I thought, but I think a good litmus test for what will determine if your attraction to straight up is how much you like the Gilmore Girls, which I was not a fan of in the first place.
If you like the Gilmore Girls, you
might appreciate this a bit more. But
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.